What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is the Time Capsule podcast. This is part 2 of last week's video. We're just putting it together. I'm gonna reintroduce everyone. My name is Bxc23. This is my co-host
John. What's up?
And then this is Justin.
What's going on?
And then this is Jake. And then we have Faxman. That's Reed right there.
I'm the fact checker guy.
Yeah. So last week, basically, we were talking about politics. I think we left off at tax code. The reason why I have Jake and Justin here, just to refresh you guys' memory, is basically Justin is a Republican, and Jake leans more towards liberal Democrat, so I wanted to get both point of views because we've been talking about social issues and political issues, or at least me and John have, so I wanted to get other people involved and to talk about those issues. So yeah, last week we were talking about the tax code is where we left off, and so I'm basically gonna just let Jake and Justin go from there and pretty much just have a debate about certain topics, and we're going to start off with the tax code. John, you have anything to add?
No, I'm good to go. Let's hit it. Topic is tax code. Go.
Okay, well, mainly, my main point of disagreement with the tax code as it stands now is that it is far too regressive. People with the most money do not pay nearly enough taxes. Before Ronald Reagan came into office, I believe the highest tax bracket would have been 70-60%. You might check that out. I believe it's somewhere around 60-70%, or at least it used to be.
What year is that?
Pre-80, so 79.
In today's dollars, what kind of dollar amount would be paying? What kind of an income would be paying 70-80% in taxes?
I think, if I was to set a standard, if I was to put a highest tax bracket, I don't think anybody should really be paying more than maybe 80%, and that should be for somebody making, well into the millions. Well into the millions. Let's just leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well
Millions
into
and
the
millions of dollars per year.
Yes,
Like
multiple
Wolf of Wall Street
millions.
status.
And what are they
Leo
getting
and
taxed
Wolf of
right
Wall
now?
Street.
They're getting taxed
Like 50, 40%?
about 40%. I believe it's 38 point something.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think they should be taxed right now?
The highest tax bracket should definitely be around 80%.
80%. And that's depending on obviously how much they're making.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Only for people making a lot of money should they be taxed that heavily. Somebody making 50, 60,000 should maybe be getting taxed 25%. Really what they are probably right now. Maybe a little bit lower, probably a little bit lower.
Yeah, so if you made 200,000 in the 70s, you got taxed about 71%. If you made between 100,000 to 120,000, you got about 63.5%. So that's pretty accurate, between 60 and 70% for the highest tax brackets in the years before the 80s.
Okay. Yeah, and I wouldn't charge somebody a tax rate of 80% that was making 200,000.
Yeah.
That's not nearly enough. I'm talking well into the millions.
So you think the taxes should depend on, and this is just for everyone across the board, of how much they're making, and that's where then we should figure out how much we should tax them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Justin, how do you feel about that?
I mean, honestly, I kind of agree with that part at least. I think there should be definitely more tax brackets. I think the way they have it with only 3 right now is kind of it should be different. They should be taxed. There definitely should be a lot more tax brackets and whatnot. And people that are making millions shouldn't be getting taxed the same amount that people that are getting taxed $500,000. Even 200,000. But
Wait, I'm confused. What people making millions should not?
They should not. They should be
Okay.
getting taxed more than
Okay.
the people that are making,
Gotcha.
But as it stands right now, if you make 200, 300,000, you're getting taxed the same amount. For people that make 20 million,
Okay.
So I definitely think that that's somewhere that it can improve.
Do you think it should be as high as 80%, as what Jake was saying, or?
You know, I would be opposed to taking 80% of someone's money, no matter how much you make, you know, because I'm all about, if you make your money, you should be able to choose how you spend it and whatnot, and you should choose, you know, there should be a limit.
I would argue that the tax code may be the most important issue of our time because it determines so much about how we value society, how much society is structured, how government treats its citizens.
Yeah,
When you have people that make so much money, tens of millions of dollars, we have some people in this country that make close to 100 million, if not more, per year on an annual basis. If we could tap those funds just a little bit more, these people aren't hurting. They'll still have their beach houses. They will still have their gold-plated jacuzzis if they want to spend their extra money on doing so. Jet fleet. They'll have their G6s.
Yeah.
It'll be okay for them. I just want to tax them a little bit more so that then we can siphon that money towards the bottom half or even, you know, bottom quarter and bring those people up, provide programs. That's what we did after World War II. That's why we are the richest and most powerful country in the world, is because we invested in the lower portion of society and brought it all up as a result.
Can I ask a question? What would your investments be? What exactly would you do? So like we're talking about siphoning money into the lower middle class. Like what steps might we take? What would be some like beginning steps for that?
Okay, drastic tax cuts for the middle class.
Okay.
I'm talking drastic tax cuts for the middle class.
Okay.
It's about goddamn time the rich paid their fair share
What's
of
drastic?
taxes. Drastic tax cuts? I'm saying if you make between, let's say, 70 to 100,000, we'll give you 3 to 5% tax break.
Okay.
If you make between
That's
50 to 70,000, you know, maybe 5 to 8% tax break. If you make between 10 and 30,000, more of a tax break, maybe into the teens. I would have to work the numbers more on that. That's a really hard thing to come up right off the top of your head.
Yeah.
But we're talking much more relief directed right towards the middle class. They can spend that money immediately, pump that into the economy, and help out all businesses as a result, even rich people's businesses,
Yeah.
I might add.
Okay.
So, I agree. I definitely agree with you know, raising tax brackets. But as far as I would look at it, and you know, as let's say if I was like a rich person, I would just be scared. Number one, first off, it's my money. I worked for it. I would want to give it away however I see fit. The second thing is I personally don't trust the government into doing those things that are right.
I was gonna say, yeah, the one problem I have with, you know,
I'd rather give it to personal charity myself rather than, because I mean, how many times have we seen the government fail, and everyone pretty much knows it as far as people that live, you know, in the ghetto and in low income housing, the charity that you send in, let's say Red Cross or whatever, it doesn't directly affect the ghetto.
Right.
So, and that's where I would be hesitant to being taxed more, that I personally earn that income, and then the government having them handle the funds that would be taxed.
well,
So
so the thing is, you know, it's fine.
Just another thing
We can
to
tax
No, that's a legitimate point.
we can tax the rich more and whatnot, but it doesn't get down to the root of the problem, which is the government sucks at spending money. They suck at spending money, right, is what I meant to say. They're very good at spending money, that's for sure. But
That's true both sides.
yeah, definitely.
George W. Bush as Exhibit A.
And Obama is Exhibit B for sure. But yeah, it's not going to make a difference if the rich are taxed more if we're not, you know, if that money is not getting spent more smart, you know, or smarter. It's not gonna affect, I don't think that we would see a big change unless we find ways to be able to spend it better. You know what I'm saying? Better programs and whatnot. And at this point I just don't see a reason or
If I may
Yeah, go ahead.
interject, because I think this gets right at what you were saying. So if we were to reorganize our priorities and how we spent, how would you feel about cutting the military budget by maybe 50%? Would that worry you, or would you be open to something like that?
By 50%?
50%. And I'm talking about closing down military bases across the world,
Yeah, see,
limiting our global capacity.
I have a huge problem
to
with
touch every part of the
I have
world.
a huge problem with that. My biggest problem with that is the fact that Jill Stein was a big supporter and advocate for closing down foreign military bases and pretty much de-weaponizing the United States.
I would not be an advocate of that.
Okay, but Jill Stein was going very extreme with her measures.
I wouldn't cut it by 90%. I'm talking about limiting our global reach by about 50%.
The problem I have with that, though, is...
Which means we're going to still be able to touch 50% of the world, because right now we can touch and strike every single location on the planet
At any given time.
at any given time, within a matter of hours, even Antarctica if we wanted to.
That's our fail-safe, though. That's the national security is a huge...
You might call it a failsafe, I might call it more of a doomsday machine.
apples to oranges.
Yeah, well, it's an arguable point.
Yeah, definitely.
If you were to, let's say if I proposed a cut of 25%, does that still concern?
I mean, we could talk about it, definitely, military spending, I feel like, is something important. I do feel like we are definitely spending a little too much on military spending right now. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to, making tax cuts on what we're spending right now on the military.
What are the pros and cons of this approach? Like, Justin, why would you be opposed to it, or why would you be okay with it? And Jake, the same question to you. Why would you be opposed to it or okay with it? What's both of your reasoning for?
Well, the reason mostly that I am opposed to it is national security. We've made a lot of enemies. There's a lot of people that don't like the United States in the world.
Yeah.
And like one of the biggest things I had a problem with, with Jill Stein is she wanted to take away shut down all the U.S. foreign military bases and pretty much shut down and de-weaponize the United States. And the problem with that is I understand, people are like, well, we need to stop dropping bombs on people, blah, 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 and the problem is we've already been dropping those bombs on people. So we have a lot of enemies now. We need to keep our national security as a top priority and to, shut down those military bases to get rid of the foreign reach that we have in the military. I feel like would be a horrible...
Basically, you want to stop the threat before it becomes a threat.
I want to have something there in case something happens, you know what I mean? Like I want it to be kind of like a shield,
Because we definitely do have a lot of enemies.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like,
because of what we've done in the past.
Absolutely. We have a lot of enemies for, we don't need to go around bombing people and starting wars that, we have no part in doing, and making the enemies that we make. But the problem is we've already made a lot of enemies. And the second that we pull back, and pull back to the homeland and kind of hunker down, I feel like those people are going to think, okay, well, here's our chance, Now they don't have the military strength they used to, blah, blah, blah. And that could be very dangerous for us, honestly.
Okay, so I'll pick up right where you left off. Is you're saying that we've made a lot of enemies in the past.
Definitely.
I would argue that increasing our military power, or even not decreasing it by a significant amount, leaving it anywhere near where it's at, will lead to making more enemies. Because when you have a big military, you have a tendency to use it more often. And you may use it more often in places you ought not use it. And you might be causing more trouble than you think you're causing, relief or help to other people. You might be causing unintended circumstances, unintended consequences of your actions when you spend that kind of money on military. You have that kind of reach. You tend to reach and overreach because you have that ability. And in terms of a pro or a con, however you want to look at it, when you spend that kind of money on military, you're divesting from the rest of the budget. You're divesting hundreds of billions of dollars. we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. If we cut it in half, we'd have $300 billion extra annually to invest into the poorest neighborhoods of this country. And one fact that I would like to point out is that if you look back over the course of history and empires, one of the big things that will bring an empire down is overreach militarily. When they try to overreach, they try to overextend themselves, the empire gets too big and it folds under its own weight.
So just a quick fact here. The Russian Armed Forces budget in 2017 was $66 billion. The China military budget in 2016 was $146 billion. And the U.S. military budget
800. Go ahead.
in 2015 was about $600 billion.
200.
So you could cut that in half and still spend twice as much as China's military. And I would argue that that's a reasonable.
I just got really close. I didn't know anything about that number. I'm just saying, that was pretty good. Anyways.
With foreign policy, you know, I definitely, my views on foreign policy definitely strike with conservatism. I really feel like we need to stay in our own business more. Definitely, we need to be out of the affairs that don't concern us.
Okay.
We need to stop coming to the aid of, a lot of foreign countries that aren't giving anything back. We're doing a lot of spending, especially like military spending and whatnot, to places that we're never getting anything back from them,
Okay.
We give a lot more than we need to or than we should to our allies and get very, very little back. So I feel like we need to start putting America first more,
Okay.
rather than, trying to go and be Big Brother United States to every single country in the world. It's just that the reality of the matter is we can't afford to do that anymore. The United States isn't in the place, isn't what it used to be.
Okay. Okay. And we'll move forward to the North Korea situation as well. But Jake, do you want to address what Justin just said there?
Yeah, well, I would argue that the United States is absolutely what it used to be and more. We have unprecedented wealth. We are the most powerful military. We have the most money, the economic engine of the world. We are the controller. We are the decision maker, if we put it in Trumpian terms.
Trumpian. Good word.
And
What would Obama Ian? How would that work? Obama.
Yeah, if it's with the Kenyan.
Obama.
Yeah.
Bushian.
Bushian.
Reagan.
Bushish.
Reaganin.
I'm partial to Bushish.
Bushish. Okay. Anyways, I digress.
You were talking about limiting our reach.
I was talking about we need to stop reaching so much, and I was saying we need to start worrying about our problems only. You know what I'm saying? Or not only, but like our problems come first. We shouldn't be sticking our hands into every single matter. We don't need to be places that we're not supposed to. I feel like we just need to be more conservative on those things.
So, by conservative, what do you mean by? This would be a good point to talk about. Is what would you consider a conservative foreign policy?
Just like what I said, not sticking our nose into where it doesn't belong. Only attack when we are attacked. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't be going out and I definitely, you can say all you want about, the war in Iraq and the war in the Middle East and whatnot.
Yes.
You can say what you want about that, but the problem is we're there now, and pulling out, we saw what pulling out of the Middle East did. I mean, ISIS came along right after, we had the Taliban and whatnot and all that stuff. We had, Osama bin Laden and whatnot. And the second we pulled out, another one just popped up. And that's a perpetual cycle. I feel like it's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, I just feel as if we should be, more reserved in those matters. We shouldn't go after, unless we are attacked, we shouldn't go after and we shouldn't be the ones that have to take out ISIS. You know, we shouldn't be the ones that have to take out Osama bin Laden.
Would you blame what's going on in the Middle East right now more so on George Bush or more so on Barack Obama?
Oh, obviously Bush went in there, you know, but what's going on right this second, Obama definitely had some part in that matter for sure.
In pulling out?
Well, he
Too
pulled.
early?
The big thing is Bush and Barack Obama are both not in office right now, and what they did and whatnot is not relevant to right this second.
But I think the precedent that they set, we can use as a template for the future. Because they were almost diametrically opposed in how they viewed the world. Because Obama was very, he didn't want to get involved with very many things. At least that's my interpretation of his foreign policies, is he didn't really want to do very much. Whereas George W. Bush seemed to want to do almost too much. And that's why we're in the position where we are. And that's kind of what led to our economic decline. Because we spent so much money in the Middle East, we didn't have that money to invest in our people.
Yeah, I mean, no matter which way you look at it, with the whole, we'll just go under the notion that 9/11 we were attacked by,
This is who were we attacked by?
we're not gonna, we don't need it, but we're just gonna go under the notion that we were attacked by terrorists from the Middle East.
No, that's solid.
And if we're using that as
Our logic.
The propensity of the evidence serves that.
Then I'd say that we were justified in going, you know what I'm saying? And we were attacked, and I feel when we are attacked, we should retaliate, and we should retaliate with a very strong hand. But again, we can debate. It's another story about the 9/11 thing.
If I might, with the 9/11 thing, I believe the vast majority, if not every single one of the 9/11 hijackers, terrorists that we're now speaking of, were of Saudi Arabian descent, which Donald Trump just made a very public visit to and shook the hand of the country person, leader of those people that flew buildings into our towers in New York.
Planes into what?
Planes into towers.
That's an advanced
Yeah.
technological society that can fly buildings into towers. Wow.
Okay, maybe I'm giving too much credit.
Define building.
Yeah, define building.
You know what I meant.
Yeah, we do.
A plane.
But you can't. Those people that were responsible for the 9/11 attacks may have been of Saudi and Arabian descent, but were part of a terrorist organization. I mean, that's like saying you can't blame a whole country because of the actions of a few. So I understand, what you're saying with that, but
I guess what I'm trying to say is, what did Iraq have to do with 9/11? That's really what I'm trying to get to.
no, I know, but
I would argue that the American people were directly lied to take us into war and plunder trillions of tax dollars in the name of
the war machine.
Given the best possible spin, some crackpot theory of spreading democracy, or the worst possible spin, direct corruption to enrich the very members of that administration. And that's being very kind. That's being very kind.
President Bush wasn't great. He definitely wasn't, the best president, that's for sure.
I'm glad we could agree
Yeah,
on that.
definitely. I just, personally, I believe that the war machine and whatnot, like we perpetuate wars. There's false flags. Our history is we have a lot of false flag events. And I feel like whenever we're out of a war,
Meddling
in
other people's affairs.
Yeah, just to kind of perpetuate wars and try to boost our stimulate our economy artificially. You know what I'm saying? By getting into wars that we don't need to get into and whatnot. I'm not the biggest believer. Obviously, they say that the weapons of mass destruction and whatnot, and that was the reason for the war. I'm not the biggest supporter. You know what I mean? Not really.
So speaking of like just that subject, how do you guys feel about like the Muslim ban, as far as, you know, Donald Trump banning certain countries, you know, from coming to the U.S. and even deporting some family members? Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Let's talk about immigration in general. So that will
Yeah.
include the
Korea
new
as
wall.
well.
Yeah.
And
And we'll get to
border
the Korea
control?
situation. Yeah.
So just immigration, I guess, in general.
So Jake, I
But
think
starting
it's you
off
first.
with Muslim.
Okay, let's jump off with the Muslim ban. I am okay with limiting immigration if it is narrowly defined. And I do not constitute barring an entire nation as narrowly defined. If we're going to bar an entire nation, are we going to bar their heads of state? Are we going to bar their royalty? Are we going to create such personal animus with people we're supposed to be working with that we're going to deny them entry into our country? I don't think that's something we should be involved in. I think if you want to narrow down immigration, if you want to restrict immigration to a certain subsect of a population within a country that you have evidence that is actually radicalized, I'm okay with that. But directly barring an entire nation, unless it's North Korea, unless it's a Cuba, unless it's a Somalia, I don't think we should be banning an entire country worth of people, especially if they have direct relatives to people in the United States.
You mean an entire religious group? Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah.
Well, there's
Nation
country
is-
and religious groups.
Well, I would argue that the
Muslims.
Muslim ban isn't even really a Muslim ban
Yeah.
because it includes countries that.
Aren't even Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And,
It
well, I don't
doesn't-
know if it
no,
does
it
that, but it
doesn't
definitely
include-
excludes
Yeah,
countries
that's-
that are majority Muslim, like say in Indonesia.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, even like there's certain countries that, yeah, a lot of them might be Muslim, but a lot of them aren't Muslim. But since that's that country, they're out of the picture.
I
Anyway.
would just
That
say
could be true, yeah.
there's one fact that I want to bring up, which is that you can make a donation to the United States of $500,000 US in order for an instant citizenship and passport to the United States, no matter what country you're from. So I think that would probably disclude people from any country that's been banned by the immigration laws from buying a citizenship to the US if they have the means to do so.
That's very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Just to talk about that point briefly,
Yeah.
I would actually argue that that's not necessarily such a bad policy, although I would increase that if you want.
Substantially.
Right, substantially. If you have 5 million, I'm willing to give you citizenship because you're going to invest lots of money.
It's a donation.
You're going to come in, you're going to buy real estate, you're going to be spending lots of money probably at boutiques. I don't know, maybe you're going to be buying Rolls Royces.
Going,
Yeah, no, so
going
that's-
to Louis Vuitton.
Right, you're going to
You
be
know.
going to Rodeo Drive, you're going to be spending money. So I'm actually okay with that, but 500,000
That's
is
a
a
fairly
bit
low.
ridiculous.
That's really low, and it's anyone. So.
That'd be hard to say, just because I'd be scared of who would be coming in there and the motive that they or agenda that they'd be having. That, I guess that would worry me, depending on, you know, let's say that person that has $500 million might be a side terrorist or maybe part of an organization that is part of a terrorist group. So
If I
that
could
would worry
quickly
me.
just put a finer point on that, is that I would say that with the recognition that they've already passed a rigorous background check.
Yeah,
That
but I mean, there's obviously ways where you can hide that,
we can't get
Right.
rid of, we can't get rid of everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
and you can't catch everything
yeah,
either.
you're not gonna
at
be
the
able
same
to
time.
prevent. Not the biggest supporter of barring, entire religions from coming here. It's kind of
Very vague and very like.
the reason I do understand though. I mean, I get why people want it and whatnot. I do feel as if sure, we can, it's a temporary ban. That's the big issue. That's the big part of it. Like, that's the biggest part of it, is it's temporary, and sure, maybe we can do that, get back on our feet at least in the terms of like national security and whatnot, I'm not completely opposed to it, but I'm not the biggest supporter of it either, I don't really have much to say on the Muslim ban.
Also, I think the fact that we're calling it a Muslim ban is the real issue that we should be talking about right now. Because what Donald Trump did is he effected a ban that basically was a signal to his base, to a certain portion of our society that would really love to see a Muslim ban if that's actually what he was doing. But he's not actually doing that. He's just doing it, he's doing whatever he's doing under the guise of basically being bigoted towards Muslim people.
Which his base loves, which the South and the Bible absolutely loves.
I wouldn't say, you know, his
It is
base.
a very cynical.
I would say part of his base for sure. I'm not, you know.
Not all of his base.
We could argue
Yeah.
whatever percentage, but it's certainly
Percentage.
20% or above. I would be very comfortable in saying. Of his base.
Yeah,
Not
that's a
of
large
America,
percentage.
of his base.
Yeah, maybe that same chunk that had a lot of bad things to say about Obama, that questions Obama's citizenship initially, and yeah.
If it was a temporary ban and like even like not building a wall but just like having stricter immigration laws, and if it was to purposely and I guess like effectively help the economy of America, it's like substantially, like let's say if he's just doing this, I don't know he's not, but let's let's say he's doing this ban and doing all these bans to hopefully let's get everyone in America right first, and then like this temporary ban will be off. Like let's say that was the idea of what he was trying to do, you know, even if it's not the idea, but let's say if it's it trickles down and it becomes, you know, an idea and it becomes something that happens because of this ban, I would be all for that. As far as temporary, depending on the length of time.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying.
But it's just, I don't know his agenda and I don't know what he's doing it for. So, but if that was to happen, then I'd be for that, man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
But-
I
Yeah. So.
Do we both agree with that? Justin, how do you feel about it? Jake, how do you feel about that?
well, that's the point. I said that. That's
Okay.
what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with that, obviously.
Jake, how do you feel about
In
that?
terms of narrowly defined limits on immigration,
Is that what you meant, Roslyn?
No, he was just talking about the Muslim ban, like being a temporary ban, giving us time to, you know, get settled in, you know, in national security wise, you know, make sure that we have our immigration policy in order, you know, our background checks and whatnot, make sure that all of our guidelines for immigration are set before letting in people that, you know, may or may not have the best interests of the United States in mind.
I guess I'm okay with that as a goal. I just don't see what's being.
What's being done to be.
Yeah, what's happening right now is not
I know. I'm just
accomplishing that. But I would agree with the
the
sentiment.
theory and just the idea of that. You know, just
Right.
looking at it from a different point
The
of view.
whole, you know, the wall obviously, the wall obviously is not necessary. Though
Okay.
yeah, it's not necessary. You know, I'm not, you know, the build the wall. I'm not. There really isn't too much of a point of it, but I do feel as if we should have closed borders. We shouldn't have open borders. I'm completely against the, you know, the Obama era open border policy. That's not. I feel as if we should. You're looking at me.
The same Obama that had the most deportations of any president of the United States ever.
That's the thing.
Including
Is that
Dwight
a fact?
Eisenhower, who enacted the Operation Wetback program. So
I'm-
Obama's got him beat.
He, you know, he may have them beat in deportations, and that's not, you know, that's not because of Obama. What I'm saying is, it's not Obama saying, you know, oh, okay, rounding those people up and deporting them was not Obama's job. You know what I'm saying?
But he certainly could have stopped it if he wanted to.
I mean, how many times are you going to, you know, the president's not going to look at every single little case and, you know, and have the say in that.
But he does appoint the people that lead these organizations, and generally presidents appoint people to lead these organizations that align with their philosophical thought.
He also, he was, so you're saying that Obama, what would you say Obama's policy for border control would be? He definitely was trying to open, you know, give us open borders.
You think that Obama was actually trying to give us open borders?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's actually, yeah, let's get into that.
Sure.
Okay. I would mainly disagree by saying that if Obama did anything, he decreased immigration by his, if he didn't at least, if he wasn't the spearhead of the deportation force, he at least co-signed it by being the tacit supporter, head in chief, not displacing the people that were head of these organizations. He at least was responsible for the deportation of millions of Mexican people out of the United States. So I don't see how that aligns with an open borders policy.
What was that statistic again?
So just so that is cleared up, yeah, Obama had about 1 million more deportations in his presidential career than Dwight D. Eisenhower did. So
was it the most
that's
of all
almost-
time?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Anyways, continue, Jake.
I don't think that deporting the most Mexican American, or sorry, the most Mexicans out of the United States, that doesn't align with a open borders policy.
Yeah. I just, the whole DACA thing and whatnot, I feel as if Obama's main goal, or not main goal, but obviously I feel as if he's a supporter for as much immigration as possible. And I do not feel like the United States is I don't feel that the United States is in the position to accept all these people and all these refugees and give them all the benefits that they receive, all of these services that they receive. We're not in the position to do that. And until we are in the position to do that, I feel as if, a more restricted border would be the best policy.
Okay, I would counter that with saying that the United States, with an aging population, as we do, we have the baby boomers coming into retirement. We need young drivers of the economy, we need young workers, and if that's not coming from the American people, we can import that through the visas that we give to high-level immigrants. Immigration has always been a driver of our economic success.
Oh,
we should
absolutely.
be bringing in people from all over, as long as they agree with the values of the United States, and if they can contribute economically, and even in some cases when they can't contribute economically, and even in some cases specifically because they cannot contribute economically, we should accept those people in, because that's America. That's what we've always stood for. It's what's inscribed on the Statue of Liberty. That is America.
I agree. I agree with part of that. I do not agree with the, letting in as many people as possible, the letting in whoever because this is America, Back when we had that, that was our driving force, this country was still getting onto its feet. And
When did the United States land on its feet? Because that's a good, at least, if you're going to say that it was once on its feet, we should define when it was on its feet.
1907.
Yeah,
Did I get
it's
it?
hard to pinpoint.
Did I get it?
But, in just an era. When you think that.
yeah, I'm not talking specifics, right? Like with that, but
I'd probably say what, in the 80s, 90s?
I have no idea.
well, what do you?
After the Great Depression?
1800s or what? Do you
No,
talk about?
I would say that America was, we could say on
Well
its
off.
feet pre-19th century, certainly, and we could say that America was a superpower following World War I.
Yeah, absolutely. I
And
would-
that's 1917, 1918.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Oh, I was thinking recently.
No, definitely.
Oh, it was only 10 years off.
So
at the
Once
very,
again.
But I was gonna ask you, do you agree with the fact that we are not in a position, which Justin is trying to say, we are not in a position economically to let in all these immigrations today because we have so many problems dealing with,
our own people.
yeah, just everything that's happening in today. And you even said it yourself that, you wanted to tax the rich to help out the poor. But if we're focused on, letting other people in to accept all these great stuff
Refugees.
that America is giving, isn't that spreading, I guess, the butter too thin?
No, I would argue against that and saying that
You think it would help our economy if we bring?
And this will be the closing
Right.
argument on this point. So go ahead.
because I think if you bring in a certain portion of the immigrants, as long as they are economically stable and they're actually coming in to buy businesses, to start businesses, as long as we aren't solely bringing in the downtrodden,
But that's-
it should be okay.
But that's I guess is the flaw in that theory is we don't know who's coming in, and we don't know what they're.
Well,
gonna
you
do.
can vet the people that come in. You can you can set certain standards. Am I right on that?
Well, you can't determine who's coming across illegally. Is that what you're saying?
Both.
Well, you can determine who's coming across illegally or legally because.
But what I'm saying is like if someone comes in and let's say they just work a regular 9 to 5 and they're not helping the economy that much at all, but they're receiving, let's say, Obamacare and all these other benefits,
Mhm.
is that helping the economy?
I would say, no. An individual in that state in their life at that particular time is certainly not helping the economy. But what you do is you try to give people at the bottom end of the spectrum an opportunity, a chance. And I say if you give enough of those people a chance, the negatives are going to the positives are going to outweigh the negatives, bar none.
I just have, so I feel to you know, round this up, I feel as if we need to have, we need to go deeper into vetting these immigrants before they come, you know, before we open up our borders completely or whatnot, you know, whatever people want to do. The bottom line is these people that are coming in need to be vetted extremely carefully. I don't think we should be we are not in a position to be accepting the refugees, the amount of refugees and whatnot that we are.
Do you know how many refugees were accepted? Just ballpark. I don't mean to call you out or anything.
No, not at the moment. I couldn't come up with a specific
Hundreds,
number.
thousands, maybe.
Or could you even, or let's not even say that. Let's just say how many refugees would you be willing to accept? By the way, our population is 330 million. So, you know, it's obviously different if Switzerland is accepting refugees, their population is much lower. So we should be accepting more than say a Canada population of some 30-some million, 40 million maybe.
Are we the number one in accepting refugees?
We most certainly are not. We are nowhere near number one. I believe number one per capita is Sweden. On a basis of pure numbers, I believe is Germany.
You know,
So-
Sweden is the number one place to live right now.
Sweden,
Fun fact.
the happiest place on earth besides Disney.
Scandinavia. Very high tax region, by the way.
I'm just saying.
So
I'm just saying.
Tie that
Place to live.
in. Pretty good there.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
should we-
what I'm saying-
So we allow 50,000 refugees per year in the U.S. and the country with the highest amount of refugees per year would be Stand by. Keep going.
Sweden, I think.
if you could, Reed, if you could look up like the senator that had just look up like senator immigration plan. There was a senator. I want to say, man, who was it, dude?
Rubio?
Was it the million? The million accept a million immigrants a year? Draw the line there.
The group of 8 or the.
It had to do with the whole DACA thing. You know. You know, except a million immigrants. That's where they draw the line. You know, and 250,000 of those are reserved for the DACA or what. You know, I would say a million would be a good. You know, it's a good number. A million a year.
Of refugees?
Of immigrants.
Oh, okay. But what about refugees?
Refugees.
Currently, say 50,000, so what would be a better number?
Refugees. Total number of refugees. I can't say a specific number on what I would think would be.
But less.
It depends on. I just feel as if these people need to have a better, a solid reason for taking refuge. If there is a solid reason for it, I believe that we should accept them. But what I'm saying is there are people coming into this country taking refuge
Under the guise of refugee status?
Yes, and reaping the benefits that they receive in this country. That there should be a stricter, we need to have deeper vetting process on immigrants and refugees. and there needs to be, you know, I just feel like there needs to be a tighter focus on that, like a tighter, yeah.
I think we have a pretty good handle on immigration as it is. We might be able to even improve security on our southern border with Mexico, but I don't think the way to do that is to build a big, beautiful wall with a shiny door.
And as I said, I'm not,
In the
you know,
middle.
I'm not, you know, in favor of the wall.
Shiny
so,
door. Imagine
you know.
that door.
Big, beautiful door.
Big beautiful
Big,
door.
beautiful. It's gonna be the best,
That's the
John.
last
It's
thing
gonna
you
be
see.
the best.
He's gonna have a button to open it.
Right, each
Donald
individual
Trump has the
person,
button.
after
Looks
they're
like-
He's
perfectly
good.
vetted.
It looks like Jordan has the highest country of refugees per year, but this data is really hard to sift through. So
When you look
we're
at-
gonna have
Just
I mean,
look
look
at who took in the most Syrian refugees,
to, okay.
because those really are what.
Look
has
at what's
been-
happening
in the recent
to look at
years.
what's happening to the EU because of like absolute open borders, it's absolute chaos in a lot of those countries because of that policy.
I would argue that it's not absolute chaos, but it may be a problem.
I mean-
it may be a problem in certain countries like Greece,
Paris.
where you have people arriving on your border by the boatload, and you're already an economically disadvantaged country in Greece.
Wrecked.
That might be.
More like they're economically wrecked, I would say.
Oh,
Greece
I
is
thought you
more
said
than disadvantaged.
E-wrecked, and I was gonna say no. They are economically flaccid. If there was ever an appropriate term for Greece, they
They're
are
fucked. How
economically
about that?
flaccid.
They're fucked.
They can't really support their own citizenry, so I do feel for certain portions of Europe that may be being overrun by refugees they can't support. But Germany, Sweden, the UK, these are countries that can support France. These are countries, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland. These are all countries that can support refugees in Western Europe. Maybe not to the extent that they are taking them in, but they can certainly support thousands upon thousands of refugees.
I mean, have you seen like?
And they may need better vetting, but our refugees that we're accepting do not need better vetting. They're properly vetted. Every single immigrant that comes into this country practically contributes economically. If not the first generation, the second generation, the third generation, it always pays off. It always pays off.
Yeah, so 21,000 Syrian refugees in the United States, and the top countries were like 3.4 million in Turkey, 1 million in Lebanon, about 1 million displaced throughout Europe.
Wow. Okay.
All right, well then, yeah, I'm probably not right in saying Germany took on the absolute number of refugees, but they may have willingly taken on the most number of refugees in terms
as
of
far
legal-
as
but their people are completely. I
They
mean,
may be
the
suffering
citizens.
from
The
that.
citizens of all of those countries that had these, this open policy of accepting all these refugees. If you talk to the citizens, they're saying that it is a huge problem, and the people, like if you go to like England and whatnot, and what was that city? Anyways, whatever.
In Germany?
No, not in Germany. Not in Germany. In England, the citizens are saying that it's a huge problem, and that these refugees are absolutely destroying their cities. And I just feel as if I don't want America to turn into that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, as far as immigration, like, what are both of your final thoughts of what the policy that we have now, and do you think we should change it, or do you think we should keep it as is? What is your final thought?
Okay, yeah, I could start off. I think our immigration policy needs to change in the fact that we do not identify who's the economically advantaged, who are the disadvantaged. We don't have quotas to those assigned. Maybe we don't necessarily need to have quotas assigned, but we do need to take a holistic outlook on who we're bringing into our country. How many are economically disadvantaged? How many can we support? Because we need to bring in rich immigrants that are going to contribute more so, and we need to bring in immigrants that can't contribute so much. It's just a matter of defining what those percentages are.
Okay.
And I feel like those percentages aren't well defined, and they actually skew towards the richest people based on the fact that you could basically buy a visa with $500,000, which I doubt you could even do that through most European
A passport.
countries. What did I say,
A
citizenship?
visa. You said a visa.
Oh, okay, well, even citizenship, right?
Yeah. I
So it
suppose, yeah.
proves my point even more.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think, Justin?
I think that we need to have, we definitely need to have a deeper vetting process. We need to be looking at the amount of people we're taking in and really, really decide if we're in the position to take that amount of people in. I feel as if we need to put America first, honestly, and we have a big problem here. We have a huge problem. Like, you were talking about the poor, the poor versus the rich and whatnot. Before we are in a position to, accept these people from all these other countries, we have a problem here first that needs to be taken care of. We need to get our people right before we can go around and, bring other people in, that may not be in the best position, and won't help the economy or, the country in any way. I feel as if, I'm not saying that we shouldn't bring in people who are economically stable, and who have things to, benefit this country. I'm saying we're not in the position to take in people who aren't going to benefit this country, and who don't have a lot to offer. So I feel as if we need to, there just needs to be a tighter hold on who's coming in, what benefits we're giving, and things like that.
Really quick before we move on, I just want to read the inscription that is on the Statue of Liberty, just in case anyone doesn't know what it says. This is right on the Statue of Liberty engraved. It says, quote, "Give me your sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Is it the other arm? Is it this arm?
Right hand over your heart, John.
No,
Just don't straighten it out too much, right?
Alright,
She
all
likes
right,
this,
all
she
right,
likes
this.
this.
She has
Here we
a
go.
book right here, right?
Yes, exactly. Quote, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
There it is, the Statue of Liberty. Okay.
That last part was actually a little bit Trumpian with that golden door bullshit. He might have lifted that.
And the cost is about $50 per person. 500,000, I think.
I think it's a
So, I mean-
$1.05.
Yes.
All right,
think
Jake,
so.
why don't you go ahead and tell us about your general philosophy on American healthcare?
Let's talk about
Let's hear
healthcare,
it.
John.
Okay,
I would love that.
go for it.
And Obamacare in general.
And Obamacare in general, the way it was
Yes.
implemented originally.
That's certainly relevant, yes. Okay, so healthcare in the United States, what a clusterfuck. How could it be improved? Well, let's see. We could talk about single payer. We could talk about every other single country that is developed. Every other rich nation has health coverage for every citizen in their society, not just the richest. Yeah, sure, we do innovate. We have great services for people all over the world if they're rich enough to come over and use them. I guess that's something. I feel like we could be better served. We spend so much of our GDP as a percentage on healthcare. Why don't we spend that percentage somewhere else? A way to get that percentage down is to be single payer. You could get drug prices down. You could enforce lower rates on insurance companies through single payer. That's better described through policymakers, not me. But single payer will really be, I think, an economic engine to the United States, because when you have people that aren't worried about whether they get sick or not, they have that taken care of. They can take entrepreneurial risks. They can invest in companies, in the economy as a whole. They might open up a business because they don't have to worry about if they get cancer.
Jake, why
It's
don't
already
you
taken
educate
care of.
our audience real quick? What is a single payer system?
A single payer system basically, John, thank you for asking.
Yeah, no problem.
Is when you have the entire country contributing to the healthcare of the entire country based on how much money they make. If you make a whole shitload of money, you pay more. If you make no money, you don't pay as much.
So it's basically just more taxes, right?
It is more taxes if you're rich. It is not more taxes if you're middle class. And that is the great con that's been distributed by the Republican Party and even Trump himself, at least once he turned into a Republican, like the chameleon might.
I just want to say, just real quick, it's not all first world countries that have universal health care. Just want to say that you said.
Are you sure?
There's a couple.
What's the one?
I'm not gonna go through
What's
them all.
the one?
What's the one
It's
that
the
doesn't?
vast majority do. There's several that don't. I'm
So
not gonna
let's
go
say
through them
like
all. You can find that
95%.
yourself. Just saying, I don't want people to yell at anyone. The vast majority of them do.
So as you were saying,
But not all of them.
Okay, well, let's just say the vast majority of people that are getting the best healthcare are under a single payer system. And that's a good way to frame it, I think, and turn it over to you, Justin.
All right. I'd argue with the fact that you get what you pay for. I've read a lot of insight from people that are from these countries, that have universal health care and whatnot, that say that the service is absolutely horrible. That there are there's horrid wait times. I was watching a video on YouTube where they go and they try to go to the doctors in Canada, and they go on a Sunday, I think it's a Saturday or Sunday, which, by the way, the clinics are closed on Saturdays and Sundays. You need to go to a hospital on those days, even if you have a common cold or whatnot. You still need to go to the hospital, and that's due to the fact that they are under a single payer healthcare and universal healthcare.
That is just one example.
That's just one example, but I just don't feel like I don't feel as if I do feel that everybody deserves some kind of attention to health. I don't feel as if everybody deserves health insurance. I mean, if you're dying and whatnot, yeah, sure, you should be able to get looked at and whatnot, or get saved and whatever. But I don't know. One thing with healthcare, I do have an idea about how we could improve if you want to go towards universal healthcare. Say sure, because I do think that if people have the money, they should be able to pay for better quality of care or whatnot. There should be a
Okay.
Okay. So my idea is that why don't we pay for the school, pay for the school for people who maybe want to be doctors and nurses and whatnot. Pay for people that want to go into that field. We'll pay for your schooling, but then once you get out of college, you work for a clinic or hospital where you don't make as much money as, say, someone or a doctor who paid for their own school and whatnot, but they'll handle all of the people that are on this universal healthcare, healthcare that is given to the people by the government. You know what I mean?
You earn it.
Yeah. Do you get it? What I mean?
I get what you're saying. I don't fully agree, but I think I perfectly agree when it applies to unemployment. Because there's a lot of people that are collecting unemployment that are absolutely doing nothing to contribute to the system. Healthcare really isn't a choice. Working is.
Same with.
You can't control whether you get sick or not, or whether you need more healthcare than any other person. You can't control that. You
also,
can't.
I just want to ask, what do you think? Because the theory of the United States healthcare, and this is how it's supposed to be. Let's say everyone is able to have 40-hour-a-week paying job, correct? And that's the 40-hour-a-week paying job. You and your family should have healthcare. So
If you have a job, a 40-hour.
If you work
job.
full-
if you
time.
work full time, you get healthcare, and that healthcare you can provide for your family. So the United States' theory is like, if everyone is working and gets that 40 hours, everyone should be able to get healthcare.
Right.
It's the people that don't have the job, that are not working 40 plus hours for one particular job, because you can't work 20 hours at McDonald's and 20 hours at Burger King and still get healthcare. So that's the problem, I think. But the
Right.
theory is, if you do work 40 hours, you do get healthcare, and if everyone's working, then everyone should be able to get healthcare.
I think that was certainly the case 20 years ago maybe,
Mhm.
but now there's so many people that work 40 hours a week with one company that they've maybe even been with for 5 years and they still aren't getting health care. And when you couple healthcare to a job, you actually limit people economically because they're fearful of maybe changing jobs because they
That goes to healthcare.
right. They maybe
Exactly.
want to go into this new field that they feel like they're more attuned with, that they'd be more beneficial to,
Yeah.
but they can't go into it because they'd risk their health care of their family.
Yeah.
When people have their health care taken care of, they're more willing to take entrepreneurial risk. This is a conservative idea. What I'm spouting is when you have people that are taken care of, you take entrepreneurial risk. That's good for the economy.
Okay.
I was just asking.
Also, just in comment on like just the like whether or not mental and physical disorders are actually controllable or not. In this article, with 5 different mental disorders, including bipolar disorder, depression, ADHD, schizophrenia, and autism, several genetic sites were common in 17 to 28% of these people with these mental illnesses, meaning that there's a huge genetic factor in whether or not you're prone to get mental and physical illnesses.
Okay. Yeah. Anything further on healthcare from either of you?
Oh, you
Open
guys,
floor.
you guys didn't talk about Obamacare.
Yeah, how do you feel about Obamacare? Did Obama do it right? Did he do it wrong?
Okay, I
Well-
can jump off unless you like to start. I'll let you start.
I just, the big thing I disagree with is the Obamacare mandate that states you need to have healthcare or else you get taxed. That I just don't feel as if that anybody's in the position, or no one's in the position to tell you what you need and what you don't need. Or I guess I don't feel people should be taxed for if they choose not to get healthcare. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel as if that should be the government's place, to say. If someone doesn't want healthcare, they shouldn't be taxed for it. They shouldn't be,
It's an interesting choice, but okay.
I mean, so go ahead, rebuttal.
Okay, yeah, I feel like you should be required to have health care because if there's anything the government should ever require, it's for you to be healthy. Because really, when you think about it, why do we have seatbelt laws? Why do we have helmet laws? It's not really to protect the person that has the helmet on, it's to protect society so when some dipshit in a motorcycle crashes on I-5, we don't have to pay for it every time. So when you give people health care, you have preventative care. So people don't get obese. They don't get as sick. Well, they may still get as obese, but they won't get as sick because healthcare is being taken care of proactively for everybody. You don't have people running around without helmets. And that's basically what we have right now. If you get super sick, you go into the ER and it costs people $100,000 if they go into the ER.
Without
And
healthcare insurance.
Right,
Yeah.
it costs so much money. If you go into the ER in Canada, it costs $0. Zero. For every single citizen of Canada, whether you're a bum or whether you're the richest person in the society. And I think that says a lot about society, and it maybe tie into every other topic we talked about, maybe even the gun issue. When you have a society that you live in, when the richest people won't even take care of the poorest people, that's not a very healthy society. We aren't looking out for one another. If we're truly looking out for one another, those privileged should look out for the disprivileged.
All right, interesting. Okay, so for our last topic of the night, we're just going to make it real broad and talk about President Donald Trump. As Jake stated earlier, the chameleon Donald Trump, you could call him, among other nicknames. Okay, the fascist Donald
I had
Trump.
to, right? Otherwise I'm getting taken away.
So who's going to go first on this one?
I'll
Jake?
let you take the floor unless you want to cede it.
No, you can take the floor, definitely.
Okay, Donald Trump. What a joke of a person he is. Orange and painted. A flashy symbol of American extravagance, if there ever was one. Unearned, I might add. President Bone Spurs himself. I'm not exactly impressed by somebody that's a real estate mogul who was trained from age 1 to be a real estate mogul. His dad was a real estate mogul. He actually earned his wealth in the state of Washington, which is interesting to this because we are currently in Washington.
And there's no Trump Towers here.
No Trump Towers.
What a-
He was a little bit less ambitious than Trump, I guess. Or maybe it was the fact that he didn't start with a whole bunch of money.
You're talking about Trump's dad.
Trump's dad. But no, I'm actually talking about Trump's grandfather, I believe, at least started in Washington. It could be his dad. But I think it was his grandfather that started the empire in real estate. So it might not even be that he was taken after his dad. It might even be multiple generations, which is even less impressive. Okay, so he had a rich dad, $300 million real estate empire in New York. how could you possibly fail? We're talking about somebody that was sent to prep school from a very early age. He was taken to real estate sites from a very young age. He was trained from a very young age to lead a real estate empire. Oh my God, he actually did so. What a remarkable achievement. Okay, I'm more impressed by somebody like, I don't know, a Magic Johnson, somebody that actually applies their craft and rises from nothing, something like a LeBron James. Maybe not somebody with that much talent, maybe somebody like a Marcellus Wiley if we're staying in athletics. He grew up in Compton.
How about a Benjamin Carson?
Or a Benjamin Carson, although there are certain disagreements we could talk about. He really grew up middle class if we want to make arguments, although black
Grew
and
up in
disadvantaged.
Compton with
Tupac?
a mother who didn't know how to read.
I think it was Detroit.
Tupac.
Tupac.
Well, he grew up in the ghetto, okay.
Tupac,
He
yeah.
grew up in the ghetto with a mother who couldn't read. So, I mean, I wouldn't say
Well,
he was middle class.
Just to stay on Trump though, he was raised by somebody that had a $300 million empire in real estate. He was trained from a very young age to be a real estate mogul. He ended up being a real estate mogul. I'm not impressed.
How do you feel about his presidency?
In terms of his policy, I feel like they're morally bankrupt and ill thought out. He basically adopted the Republican Party unless it wasn't properly racist enough, and he altered it just a bit to make it properly racist. Other than that, I think he's a general, he's a Democrat masquerading as a generic ass Republican whose ideas do not benefit the vast majority of Americans, probably 80%. Top 20% are sitting pretty well. I will say that.
All right,
So
top
congrats.
20%.
Bully. Bully the stock market, right? He always touts the stock market. Bully, right? Everybody's in the stock market listening to this, right?
There we go.
Frederick Trump was the grandfather of Donald Trump, who started his empire by operating several restaurants and boarding houses in Seattle.
Okay, Justin, how do you feel about our head of state?
God,
We
that's
got
frightening
some,
for you to put it like that.
You know, they're definitely, he's got some issues. You know, no one's perfect. You know, he's definitely, I don't agree with a lot of his social.
What do you like about him?
That's good.
I like the fact that he's running America as a business right now.
Okay.
He's doing a lot. You know, he's not running the country in terms of. He's running the country in terms of how are we going to get America stable? How are we going to make America better? How are we going to help America succeed and whatnot? You know, he did. You know, he was born into money, yes. But when you say how can someone fail, it's easy to fail. Yeah, sure. People always talk about how he was given $1 million loan by his dad to start off.
Well, that's a joke. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
I mean, how can you? People say, how can you fail? You can, you know. I guarantee you, if you give everybody $1 million, there are going to be a lot of people who fail. It's just because you were given $1 million does not mean you're guaranteed to succeed. There's going to be a lot of people that would fail in that position, and Donald Trump did not, and he established a huge real estate business. He's the made man, dude. He has made a lot of money. He's very successful. He's done a lot of things good in his life. You know, he's done a lot of great things. Just because, I mean, everybody loved Donald Trump before he was the president. It's not like, you know, I mean, some people, he may look dumb, you know, he may not be, you know, the most attractive person in the world, but no one really was like, oh, you know that Donald Trump guy, man, I hate that Donald. The guy that was the Apprentice shit, man, I hate that guy. It's not, you know, it wasn't until he was the Republican candidate that people were like, oh, he's a racist, you know, he's a misogynist. No one ever pointed these things out before. You know, I mean, it's true. No one really, the hate didn't start coming to Donald Trump until he was, you know, part of the Republican Party or running for president or, you know, the president.
At least one person did.
Well, okay. Our fact guy did. Oh, okay. Or you? You did?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
That's not nobody.
That's not nobody. One person.
Well, let's talk about some of the racially controversial things that Donald Trump has said, because there have been statements that he has made that have been controversial. Jake, maybe you could give us an opinion or two.
Although I feel like the statements that he made are worth mentioning. The more important thing are the policies that he's implementing that are vastly disadvantaging the poor people, that he's disparaging vocally, which sure is a point, but if I was one of those people, I would just prefer economic advantage. I don't really care what you say about me. But yeah, he's certainly signaling to a very dark section of American society that does not like people of a certain tone. And I don't mean voice. They don't like people of a specific tone. I feel like you know what I mean. And he knows what he's saying. He knows what he's doing when he's saying, I wish you just punch him, and a black guy gets punched. It's just a coincidence. It was a black guy, of course. He calls Mexican people, it's not even that he said maybe they're rapists, maybe they're criminals, but he said, what was the exact quote?
Let's find it.
Some of them may be good people. Some of them may be good people. Maybe? No, Donald Trump. Some of them are good people. The vast majority of them are good people. And how dare you say that about somebody that would disparage a war veteran like John McCain, somebody that called out bone spurs as a reason for avoiding the Vietnam War? How dare you talk about the morality of anybody at that point?
I don't think Donald Trump is inherently racist.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think Donald Trump is inherently racist.
He plays a good one though.
He has made a few questionable, comments,
And
like
sexist comments too.
as I said in the opening statement of this, he has a few social issues that I don't agree with. He said a few things I do not agree with. But bottom line, I don't think that he is this racist, misogynist piece of shit that people think that, I don't think he's that person. And people didn't ever call him those things until he was the president of the United States. And I think that's very, very, must be just a coincidence about that.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
Can I quickly
go ahead,
respond?
Jake.
I think that you make a really good point, because I never really had a negative view of Donald Trump before he got into politics, other than he was just another, rich asshole that didn't deserve it, never contributed to society, but generally an agreeable person and somewhat charismatic and actually funny. I enjoyed watching his interviews on late night. I don't despise all rich people, of course. Some of them are funny, and I enjoy that. So I used to see him as like this benign, kind of buffoonish, over the top, but generally successful real estate mogul of the United States. But I would say that it was the very venturing into politics itself that brought out the racism in him, the faux racism. I don't think it's even real. Look at his relationship with Omarosa. Look at his relationship with, the boxing promoter. I can't place the name. The boxing promoter is black guy.
Don
They're
King.
friends. Don King. Right. I don't think he's really racist. Kanye West, that's a popular topic right now. Donald Trump probably isn't racist. He just uses that as a way for himself to get elected.
Okay, there we have it. Donald Trump in a nutshell. Do we want to make closing statements, both sides?
I guess the
What do you
best.
think about his policies?
Yeah. So we're supposed to get into the policies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what has Donald Trump achieved? I would say you could split that into the domestic realm and in the foreign realm. I would actually almost say that what he's been doing in the foreign sphere is relatively good, neutral. I don't like what he did with the bombing of Syria, although I don't have a great issue with it. In terms of his domestic policy, though, he's a disaster. He is a Miley Cyrus-esque wrecking ball into the United States of America, a big bloated one at that, and it's all about economic policy that I think that is bringing down the country. When you just can't keep supporting a 1% over and over and over again, tax cuts for the rich, and that's all he's really achieved is that GOP tax plan, and it's more of the same. It's more giveaways to the rich. We aren't supporting NASA. which was a huge driver of economic success. It's the reason we are the aviation superpower. We are taping this in a region that is directly influenced by Boeing. If it wasn't for Boeing, this economy, local economy, would be devastated. The reason we have Boeing and all this aviation is because of NASA. We need to invest now so we have wealth later. We don't invest in rich people, we invest in scientists, we invest in the poor, we invest through the GI Bill, through our veterans, through the broad underclass. We bring them up, we all come up.
Alright.
There it is, Jake. Justin, your turn.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say, I'd say that you know, he's doing a pretty good job. He's had a few, you know, he's definitely achieved a lot of things so far. I mean, in his first year, there was numerous things. Even Democrats had to bow down to some of the things he was doing. And you know, it's been a year. It's been a year and a half, man.
Could you list some of those things?
Sure. You know, honestly, I do agree with withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, you know, it's not, that's, I don't feel as if that was in the best interest of the United States.
I may even agree with you.
Yeah, that
on
wasn't,
that.
you know, that was a good thing that, you know, obviously Obama got us into. You know, the trans Pacific Partnership. That was a campaign promise that, you know, he came through with. Tax reform bill, GDP increase above 3%, creation of, he said, I said 1.7 million jobs, he said it was 2.1 million. Unemployment's cut to 4.1%, Dow Jones record highs, executive order boosting apprenticeships, more computer science repealing the Obamacare mandate, prioritizing women-owned businesses for some $500 million in SBA loans. That right there proves that he's not a complete misogynist. Signed the executive order which demands 2 regulations be killed for every new one. That's definitely something that will help with killing job stifling for sure. There's a huge list of things that he's done that people just aren't looking at because people can't get past this figure that the left has made him out to be. They made him out to be this horrible Hitler-esque. Well, here's the thing, you know, everybody was so scared. I mean, there was people crying and just in tears when Donald Trump got elected. The world is over. There's no future. We're done. The country's gonna be bursting the flames the next day. We're fine right now. You know, it's not like, you know, Donald Trump's gonna get us killed by North Korea. Next thing you know, North Korea and South Korea are agreeing to end the Korean War. I mean,
I do want to say that the Hitler comparison is most certainly unfair because Hitler helped the economically disadvantaged.
He did.
I just want to say, with all those facts, I can't possibly check all
No,
that.
yeah, you know,
Like,
yeah.
should we type those up and send them to me just so maybe I put scrolling like these.
It's not that
This
many.
I just can't do it all right
There's
now.
like 4 or
I mean,
5
like,
that,
I don't know, you know. So just if you want to do that, yeah, exactly.
Allegedly.
All that's
all
alleged.
facts allegedly.
Yeah.
I feel like
all the
the-
ones that he didn't state.
Yeah, I feel like the arguments almost stand on their own, even if the numbers are a bit skewed.
Yeah. All right. So, for I guess the closing argument, or I mean closing statement, I guess you should say. So, basically, my question is like, where do you think we're gonna go here from now as Donald Trump being president? What is it gonna be? What is it gonna look like in the next 3
what's
years?
the future look like?
Exactly.
8-ball, magic one. Do you want to take this one, or?
Justin, you should go first. Jake
yeah,
went first
I-
last
you
time.
know-
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna go up from here? Do you
Yeah, I think
we're
that
gonna get better?
I think it's going to be. I think it's gonna. His presidency is going to be a good one for the United States, and I feel as if people are going to be eating their words. You know, I do foresee, you know, a re-election. I do think Donald Trump is going to have an 8-year presidency. It will be a 2-term. In fact, I almost guarantee it. Basically, people just need to stop. You know, don't do some research for yourself. Don't just listen to what the media is telling you. Actually research and do your own research on, pretty much I just feel like Donald Trump has been an okay president so far. I would honestly say he's been a good president so far. And I do think that, he'll do great things for America.
It's definitely too early to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. We just need to wait. People just need to wait. And,
That's for
If
being
you-
good or bad.
if he isn't a good president, well, you have another chance to, elect a different president.
Okay, Jake,
Okay,
the
first
future.
I'll outline two, fork in the road situations where you have one other way it could go. So it could go either the country slides into more pro-Trump sentiment, he gets reelected, more Republicans come into office, that sort of agenda gets implemented.
Okay.
And in that scenario, I see devastating effects for the economy. Maybe not in the short term, but most certainly in the long term. We're probably due for another recession, again, just based on the boom bust cycle of the capitalist economy. When you give so much money, when you give so much money to wealthy people, there's not enough money for the rest of the people. And when you don't have money to the basic people to buy stuff, it's bad. It's a supply side, demand side argument that's been going on forever. It always leads to bad things for the economy. You look at George W. Bush, the policies that he enacted. You look at George...
H.W.
no, not George H.W. Bush, but yeah.
Washington?
No, when you look at Reagan, he lowered taxes.
George Reagan.
George Reagan.
Yeah. When you look at Reagan and the policies that he implemented, you could say that it maybe was good for the economy. But what did George H.W. Bush do that he said he wasn't going to do? He said he wasn't going to raise taxes, and he raised taxes because it was the right thing to do for the economy. And what happened after that is a gigantic economic boom. Gigantic economic boom under Bill Clinton, which I would argue was the direct result of the raising of taxes under H.W. Bush. So that's one view of the world. We go more into this Republican conservative mindset of where we just give all the money to the rich people, and we slip into an oligarchic plutocracy where we're all living in a serfdom where we just basically serve our fucking masters. So that's one view. I would also suggest a different view where I'm saying that Trump is going to be an ushering in of more democratic activity. People are going to come out to the polls more because they see what a fucking disaster this asshole is. He's so incapable. He's so morally bankrupt. He's just not really even smart enough to take on the ideas. He's a con man, and I think people might realize that, and they're going to become more active. They're going to be more democratically engaged, and that might be beneficial for the country. Trump might be the great re-ushering in of democratic activity and activism, and more of a push towards what we saw during the Great Depression, coming out of that, being for the people, actually for the people.
You know, when I'm looking to predict the future, I just call Late Night with Miss Cleo. She is a great indicator of what's to come
Can
in
we
my
put
life.
the number up for Miss Cleo?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Let's
She
throw that
usually
up
can
there.
tell me just
Number for
great
Miss Cleo
facts,
will be right
great
here.
guidance of where I should go. I think that's about it for the episode, though. You guys did great. Brosna, what do you think?
I think it was good. I think first off, I would like to thank Justin and Jake for coming on the
Yes,
Timecapsule
special
podcast.
segment.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Even
Good
though,
talk.
one was a Republican and one was
We
a
got along.
Democrat.
There was no fights. There were
Exactly.
no physical
So-
altercations.
Surprisingly, we
had to come
agreed on, there was a lot we agreed on.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, they could probably talk about it for like 2 more hours.
Could I
or
say
whatever.
just one thing? I don't mean to interject, but I feel like an important thing to highlight is the fact that we're both supposedly Republican and Democrat, liberal and conservative, and look at how much we've agreed upon.
So much.
Yeah.
If we were both in the Senate right now, look how much we could both get done. Look how much we both agree on that the country agrees
We
on.
wish we could get. We
Basically,
could take care of, but they're.
the one thing that
Yeah.
everyone
Money
agrees on
interests.
is we all just want basically everyone to live a good life to flourish, to be able to work and have health care and, you know, be able to feed their family. And that's the main agenda for every American. And that's, you know, the American dream for people coming over here. So, I mean,
That's definitely what I wish for.
so.
Just a matter of how we get to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I would like to thank them again, and you can
You're
follow
welcome.
me
Again.
at actually the link will down below. I won't even say it, but this is the Time Capsule Podcast. This is episode 4, and like and subscribe. My name is Bxc23,
John.
and this is
You
Justin,
can follow me at TheRealJ7 and at ADrunkWeeb.
and this is Jake.
Jake Leisure. I have a name. I really don't have a following, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Come
Peace.
watch my Twitch streams.
That was good. Twitch
Remember
streams.
that, man.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
play games on it or whatnot?
Yeah, that's what I do, man.
What games do you play?